Hi guys, and welcome back to TJ Talk. And today we're with our in-house shrink sex therapist, Cathy Rotich Holden, our yellow Russian friend, or half Russian.
Hi. Hello everyone. Hi,
welcome back. It's been a while.
Thank you.
People have been asking, what happened to your yellow psychiatrist? And I said, she'll be right back after the break. But that break was a bit too long. We need to kind of reduce it. Let's say once a month.
Yes. So we have a monthly check-in. Yeah.
Yes, monthly check-in.
I agree. I agree.
I'm with you on that 100%. And I see the Rona has been good to you. You become lighter. So have I. I become a bit lighter. My hair has grown. Yeah. Lips and bounds. Yeah, I'm thinking about highlighting my goatee as well, just to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, and you look awesome, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, courtesy to a good recommendation from a good friend. Wink, wink. Yeah, but welcome back, Cathy. Today, guys, we're talking about relationships and addiction, or addiction in relationships, or addictive relationships. The whole addiction thing, entanglement. Your addiction entanglement in relationships. Yeah. And the reason we talk about this topic is because it's something we all go through. It could be from soccer, social media, your Instagram, your Facebook. It could be your children. It could be your church. It could be pretty much anything. And it's something that we do every day. It affects our partners, affects our love lives, and affects how we're trying to get this intimacy thing going. So without pretending that I know a bit much, let Cathy kick off. So what is addiction in relationships? How do we define that?
Okay, so I think maybe we can define addiction first of all. So when I'm looking at addiction, I'm looking at addiction as obsessive, compulsive, out of control, negative effects to self and others. And I'm talking about the behavior. So essentially, your drug of choice could be anything. It could be sex. It could be gambling. It could be alcohol. It could be anger. Whatever is going to give you that extra dopamine rush, and then it's going to then lead you to want more and more, build up a tolerance, so that all you're doing is looking for your next fix. So remember, it's really about the behavior. So when I'm looking at addiction, I'm looking at the obsessive nature, the compulsive, out of control, negative effects to self and others. And also, when you're doing your drug of choice, a lot of the time you're doing it because you're escaping pain.
Okay, so there is pain. Okay, so pain, but it could be anything you're escaping, basically. It could be, well, I think we'll just stick with pain for now, but we as men have our own addictions and we use those as excuses. We must go watch soccer at the pub, or we must do this and the other, and it becomes this thing. I mean, I enjoy playing my golf, and even that for some families has become an addiction. Now there's social media, everybody everywhere. Before you eat, hold up, we must take a photo. And guess like, dude, why are we posting stuff all the time online so everybody knows your stuff? So how does that affect the relationship and the intimacy?
Well, I mean, and this it's a great question, because addiction is really a barrier to intimacy. Because if we're going back to the definition, being obsessive, do you always have to do it? Compulsive, are you constantly doing it? Out of control, is it something that you're constantly doing? So for example, is it completely, absolutely necessary for you to, I don't know, take a picture right before you eat, for example? Is it something that you have to do? Is it something that maybe your loved ones have actually said, you know what, we don't always have to do it? Because you remember, there's also the negative effect to yourself and others. Is it getting in the way of how you lead your normal life? Is it affecting others around you? Are you hurting other people by doing it? So yes, it can be addictive. And, a lot of the things that we're doing these days, because you see, if we look in the traditional sense, when we're talking about addiction, people think substances, they think alcohol, they think drugs, and more so, there's gambling now that's looked at as addictive, and also sex. But there are other things that we can get addicted to. So, for example, anger. It's a repetitive action. Maybe there's something that we do that's going to give us that elevated feeling or that dopamine rush, and it's going to make us feel good. And of course, whatever makes us feel good, we're going to try and get it again and again to make sure that we feel that we are, that we're filling that empty space with something. We want to feel good, so that's what we keep on doing.
And then we replace, because I've noticed, like, well, it's been out there in the media circles anyway, social media, I mean. So there's people who actually live for likes, to the point where it has to be, I post something every day. And if it doesn't get to maybe say 100 or 200 likes, you're like, man, you get depressed. And then you change your well-being or your validation to that particular feeling, that thing. And the reason I pick on media is because a lot of us are on it nowadays. And with the effect of COVID, people have been actually more on it than they were before. So it's become a way of life for communicating. I mean, look, we could have been doing this face-to-face a long time ago, but we're doing this on social media. So it's one of those things, I think, for me, we must address within the relationship. So let's pick that up as an example and figure out how now we can probably either change that, or how do we then communicate to our partners that is a problem.
And I think that's the one thing that, if sometimes when you're actually engaging in the behavior or you're in that addictive cycle, you don't always know that you're doing it. And that's one of the reasons why, taking responsibility for your actions and actually looking at yourself and saying, look, I think I have a problem, or I may have a problem, takes ages. You can be in a relationship where your partner is constantly on their phone, and you're maybe telling them, Han, you always seem to be on your phone. Would you mind giving a bit of space sometimes? You don't always have to be on your phone. And for the person who's addicted to that activity, all they hear is nag, nag, nag. They're not hearing, there's a problem, or there's something that I need to fix, or there's something wrong with me. It's more or less like, why can't you do it? Because you see, the addictive part, the addictive brain is not really, it's not thinking anymore. It's more about emotions. It's more about pleasure. Like, for example, the likes that you were talking about. 200 likes. Otherwise, my whole life, it's not the same, and it's not really good. But you see, those likes, and you said something really interesting, changing your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Are you not, for example, taking a shower? Are you not eating? Are you not leaving the house because of something that you're doing? And it's the classic definition in terms of negative harm to self, because that's when you start harming yourself. And that kind of thing, if your partner keeps on telling you something that, hey, there's something wrong, you're always looking at the phone, you're always looking for likes, then it's kind of something that we need to maybe take a step back and kind of think, okay, what is this person trying to tell me? So key thing is to try and listen. And once you're trying to listen, then you can move into the stage where you start thinking that, okay, maybe I have a problem and maybe I need to get some help, but how do I do it? And that's when you're able to then move into the recovery stage, where you're now thinking about how you're connecting with others, you're connecting with yourself, you're taking responsibility, and then you're also connecting to a higher perspective, whatever that may be, depending on your religious beliefs or your, whatever else that you believe in.
Yeah. Well, okay, other than our spouses, our partners, our people, even our friends, because I've just thought about it, how when you decide you're taking a break from, take a break from taking alcohol, and guess ask you why aren't you drinking? And what happened? Was it the doctor? Blah blah blah. There's always that thing. And as you're saying, they want you to get back into the circle where you're drinking with them, because then you're not fun anymore. Because you're not drinking, so you're not fun anymore. Whereas people who've actually not been drinking actually find other fun things to actually do and incorporate in their lives. So how does one get to that stage? Because there's two ways. There's you yourself who will decide this may be a problem, or you may not see it, or somebody else may tell you. Or how do you get out of that? Because I think it's a cycle. Friday night, hey, Cathy, we were asking for drinks. So on Monday morning, you're already thinking about Friday. So how do we pick that up within ourselves, and how do we actually change that, from being a negative cycle to positive?
Okay, so there are some ways that we can do this. I think the key thing here is to be able to understand that there is a problem, because okay, so for example, like in the States, there is something called a Marchment Act. So if you feel that if as a partner to somebody who I think who has an addictive kind of nature, or addicted to alcohol or whatever substance, and I feel that whatever they're doing, things are becoming really in terms of compulsive, and they're no longer able to make good decisions or healthy decisions for themselves, then they can actually, it's kind of like a legal kind of thing where they can go into the courts and make this person go into recovery, so i.e. rehab. Now we don't have that here in this country, but it's something that it would be, I think I'd rather talk about one thing in terms of how to get there, how to be in recovery. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because there is a cycle, and you talked about this before. There is a vicious cycle, and most of the time it actually starts from either an activating or a disturbing event. And this disturbing event can happen way into, for example, way into childhood. Now I'm talking about something like, and I think a lot of us can relate to this. You're in school, it's the end of term, you've received your report card, and you don't have very good results. I know, for example, myself, I used to really struggle in school, believe it or not. So I used to get
PhD. If you can do it, I can do it. Anybody can do it. Go.
Yeah, I just I'll talk about it, but like it would reach the end of term, and I get my report card, and then my report card states like I'm not really doing well. So, for example, I've got a D in math. I was never good in math. Yeah. But yeah, I got a D in math, probably an E in Kiswahili. So, and when the teacher is giving out that report card, they're telling you, oh, Rotich, you've done really badly. And you're like, then you feel really bad because, it's to be told that you're not good at something when maybe you've really, really tried and you're just not getting it. You feel really down. Then the next step is you go home and you submit that card to your parents, and your parents calm down on you like a ton of bricks. And it's like, oh, you think you're going to be on holiday? No, you're not going to be on holiday. You're going to have tuition, and you need to have a timetable, and you need to be reading. So, these are some of the things. And, I'm smiling about it, but really that can be a really disturbing event, because what it does then, it gives you negative cognitions. Like, I'm worthless. I'm not good enough. I'm a bad person. You see? So it's like from that time, I'm already thinking that. And that was like just one event. And then you continue into your adolescence, you go into your, early adulthood, and then you get more challenges. But then, these kind of messages keep on piling on. So you keep on saying, I'm not good enough. I'm a bad person. And then this is where the fear of intimacy kicks in, because then you start saying, no one's going to love me the way that I am because I'm such a failure and I'm such a bad person. Yeah. So what do you do then? You control the distance of how close people can actually come towards you.
So you build up your walls there.
Build up your walls. You only share what you're comfortable sharing, because you know what, that disturbing event in childhood allows you to see that, you can't really be yourself, because if you are yourself, then people are going to judge you and make you feel horrible about yourself. So you know what, let me put my guard up. So I have this wall, and I'm controlling how close somebody can get. The amazing part of this whole thing is that this is something that I'm doing subconsciously, because my limbic system, which is my animal part of my brain, is where the disturbing event is sitting. That's where that thing happened. But in my thinking brain, I'm thinking, I really want to connect with somebody. I'm lonely.
Yeah.
I want to feel to somebody, but I'm not able to do that because you see, my limbic system is saying, no, it's not safe. Don't you dare. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing it for such a long time, you know, you're avoiding intimacy because you're controlling the distance and you're controlling who comes close to you. And that leads to pain.
Yes.
From disconnection. You're not connecting with people the way that you would really want to because people are not loving you for who you really are. They're
Yes.
loving what you're showing them. So
Yeah.
deep down inside, when you go to sleep at night, it's a whole different kind of story that you're telling yourself. And that's when you kind of think, hey, I need a mood altering substance or behavior to make me feel good because this disconnection is crazy, because it's painful. One of the things that we want to do as human beings is we want to connect with other people. We want to feel loved. We want to be accepted. We want to belong to a group.
Yeah.
That is the motivation of human behavior.
Yeah.
But if we're not going to get that, that's one of the reasons why we look for that mood altering substance or behavior. And that kind of allows us to feel better. We get this relief.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the interesting thing, as we're feeling that relief from whatever it is, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be sex, gambling, we kind of get into this cycle of do more, need more, do more, need more. What are we doing? We're building a tolerance.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons why you start with like just a little bit, maybe 1 shot, 2 shots, you're fine. Then you feel better. It changes your mood.
Yeah.
It's also at the same time changing your brain chemistry, and then you feel really good. Then you go home, you have a bit of a hangover. Positive, negative effects. You're like, nah, it's okay. I'll go drinking again. It's not so bad.
Yeah.
And then the next time you go out, you drink more.
Yeah.
So every time you drink more, because what you're doing is you're chasing that high.
Yes.
Just like, oh God, time I tried it, gosh, it was so amazing. I need to get there.
Yeah.
And I need to do everything in my power to get there.
Yeah.
And that's where the addiction kicks in. Now, the reason why addiction is a barrier to intimacy is because, your thinking brain wants to connect with people, but your caveman brain or your limbic system is saying, no, you're not ready for that, or I'm too afraid. And you know what? One of the things that we need to do, and this goes to, the question that you asked me in the beginning, and I'm sorry for being so long-winded about it, but we can't really connect until we heal that negative childhood messages that we have, so that we can relieve the fear of rejection. And, and that's how we then practice true connection to breaking those bad habits of building up walls, for example, not connecting, then go into a mood altering substance or behavior. And remember, it really depends how long you've been doing this, right? If you've been doing this in your life for 15, 20 years, then, when you start seeking help, and you would need help from an addictions counselor for this.
Yeah.
If you come in for help, a lot of the time, and what I sometimes get is, I just want a quick fix.
Yes.
I just want this to go away. I just want it to get better. Yeah. And the reality is it takes time. Because if you think about, it takes 21 days to form a good habit, 6 months to become a behavior. If you've been doing that behavior for 15, 20 years, breaking that cycle will take a bit of time. Yeah. That's not something that, we're always ready to hear when we speak to a therapist or an addictions counselor for the first time. But this is something that we really need to do. And it's, it's that disturbing event or that activating event that kind of trickles down to other things. Yeah. And those negative cognitions that we have about ourselves are so, they can really, dampen how we feel about ourselves in terms of our self-worth, the kind of choices that we make. Because if you're thinking that I'm not good enough, you're not going to make choices that are going to put yourself first. You're going to maybe people please. You're going to do things that you don't necessarily do. Yeah. And this is the thing. And to retreat, you're going to go into that mood altering or substance, or behavior kind of thing to make yourself feel good, because you're not able to do that in other parts of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is recovery? And I think that's the really key thing here. What is recovery? It's being present.
Yeah.
So you know what you said. One of the first examples that you gave in terms of somebody who just before their meal they really need to take a picture. They're with
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
They really let's
Don't
take a
touch it.
picture.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. So in a way, and then immediately after that, it's like, oh, Instagram and Facebook, and then it's monitoring likes
Oh,
as they're coming in.
5 likes so far. Got 10 likes so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, our picture is doing really well. And you know what? Unconsciously, sometimes we all do that because we've been in positions, and I'm not condemning anybody, by the way. It's
Yeah.
it's something that we do subconsciously.
Yes.
I mean, I post every day, and I kind of like when I see several likes, I'm like, oh, okay, this post is doing
That's
well.
nice.
But
Yeah.
when it, but when it starts to affect other people and it starts to affect ourselves, and that's all we're thinking about it. And you gave a really nice example a few minutes ago where you said, oh, 5 o'clock.
Friday.
Yeah, we're going. Yeah, Friday 5. And by the way, when you're constantly thinking about it the whole day, that's obsessive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole week.
5 o'clock. Yeah.
From Monday, when you get in the office, you're thinking, yeah, Friday we're going to catch a good cap, my friend. You guy, my guy, we're going to catch bites.
Yeah, and this is the thing, and this is the obsessive part of addiction because that's all you're thinking about. You're not thinking about, I'm going to go home and see my partner and see what they want to do, or I'm going to go and spend time with the kids. And if, for example, you're out on a Friday, then, you come home quite late or you're hungover, you're spending the whole of Saturday recovering, right? And if you have a family and, you're not spending time with your family, because all the other times you're at work or working or busy or hustling or doing whatever that you need to do. And then all of a sudden, when you have this space or this time with your family, you're not doing it. You're not spending time there. And that's the negative effect to others because they're not being able to spend time with, either their dad or their mom or their sister or their brother or whoever it is in your family that's, in an addictive cycle. But this is the thing, and this is the one thing about recovery, it's being present. So, okay, yes, we can take a picture, but you know what? Maybe it's okay for us to actually be present in this moment and not take a picture.
Online, yes.
Yeah, and maybe being present is looking at the food and smelling the food and tasting the food and looking at the people around us and thinking, oh, are they enjoying, and talking to them.
Yeah, would you like to taste the steak because you're having the chicken or the burger? Can we interchange that up? Yeah.
Being present, or for example, another example of being present or not present, and being present meaning connecting and not present disconnecting. So, for example, you're at home, your baby's on your lap, and you're taking a selfie. You're taking a selfie, but you're not really connecting with your baby because you're taking the selfie. So it's more or less like, are we connecting? Are we really connecting, or are we disconnecting? And are we being present? And a lot of the times, when we're not present, we miss a lot of things around us, So for example, if you're always consumed with your phone, you're going to miss conversations. So you'll find somebody saying, oh, no, what did you say? Or just say that again. Or when everybody starts laughing, that you're like, oh, just hold on, just say that again. What do you say? Why are you guys laughing by yourself? Well, not really.
You're just
choosing. There. Yeah, you're disconnecting. You're not present. And being in recovery means that you're present.
Yeah, I've had that before where you're constantly saying, there's people who always on the phones, even like my sons at some point, I'm like, no gadgets. If we're eating, gadgets are away. Let's sit on the table. Let's have dinner together. I'll take a photo of us together, but that's as much as the phone we're going to do. Keep the phone away and that's it. Because it's something that we don't consciously do, because you can be driving in the car and you go like, yeah, oh, look at, my kids like nice cars, like, hey, look at that car. And they're like, which one? By the time you're saying which one, we're like 4 cars down, and I'm like, you missed it. Then another thing. And at some point,
Yeah.
not only with the kids, but even
Yeah.
with the grown-ups, you stop queuing somebody anymore. And it's the same thing because you get home, this person's either on the phone or say reading a book, or say if it's in the kitchen, there's no connection. You're not making that connection together. And
Mm.
what's actually more interesting is this thing is going across the board from the young kids to to even our folks, because like you find now Akina Madea on a group for Chama or something. There's always something being posted and it's like, hey, have you
Mhm.
heard from Manania's food? And so I think it's something that we need to talk about because it may not necessarily be
Mm.
the phone, but it's a habit that our partners don't appreciate.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we need to figure
Mm.
out a way how to get out of it and how to recover from it without necessarily
Mm.
feeling we're being targeted.
Yeah, and you know what you're saying, recover from it. Part of being in recovery is being able to allow feelings, not to escape them. Because remember, when we're doing these kind of things, we're escaping. We know when we're looking for a mood altering substance or behavior, we're escaping. We're escaping something. We're
Mm.
escaping something that either gives us pain or gives us some form of discomfort. So essentially what we're doing is we're numbing those feelings. But
Yeah.
when you're in recovery, you're able to allow those feelings to come in and you address them. And when you're addressing them, you're also accepting yourself and taking personal responsibility for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really key thing where you're saying, I understand that this is not what I'm doing is hurting others and hurting myself. And I'm going to stop doing it so that I can reconnect and truly be intimate with those around me.
Mm. So
So, when you're thinking about connecting, you're thinking about connecting with yourself, you're connecting with others, and you're also connecting with a higher power. So, for example, for different addiction programs have, let's say, Alcoholics Anonymous. Also for sex addicts, they have one. So that they're different ones. So, you have some kind of a community where you're able to talk about that. And that's something that you're able to do when you're thinking about recovering. Recovering is kind of recovering the limbic system part of the brain where the emotion is, where the disturbing event was. So
okay.
as you're going through therapy and you're working through that cycle, you're then looking at some of the things that are going to recover from that in terms of that disturbing event, holding back the emotion to allowing the emotion to come out, addressing the emotion, where that disturbing event then becomes an event without the emotion that then leads you into the whole cycle of getting that mood altering substance or behavior.
And how do we, more importantly, because we're talking about intimacy and relationships and the addiction and
Mm,
how that affects a relationship, how do you get to either pull your partner into to walk with you
mm,
to recover, or how do you get to move your partner into the recovery phase? How do you basically, it's not a journey you can do by yourself. It's something that
yeah.
you need, like how alcoholics, you need a sponsor in the gym, you need
Mm,
somebody to support you when you're working out, you need accountability when you're trying to eat right.
mm,
You can't be saying I
yeah.
don't want to drink anymore, but your partner is catching pints all the time in the same house with you. That won't work because you'll basically be slipping back
Yeah.
into it again. You say we want to eat healthy,
Yeah.
but just stocking up on cakes and the calories and the wrong kind of food in the house. You say
Yeah.
you want to get rid of certain habits, but you still have your
Mm,
closet where you still go back to, when no one is, there's all that stuff in there. So how do
mm,
we move together from that to now, recovering together as a unit?
mm,
I mean, I know there's,
yeah.
there's no instant relief for this one. It's long term, but
Mm.
how do we start that journey together?
And I think what I've seen is that sometimes it's the partner of the person who's going through the addiction who will come into therapy.
Mhm.
So, and what happens is then when the partner is talking to me, no, the partner is talking to me. The person with the addiction is really not interested in therapy. They're also not even in that space where they think that there's something wrong with them.
Mhm.
The thing is, the person coming in to seek help is already making a start. in a journey, because what they're doing is then they're understanding what this cycle looks like. So what I've described to you is something that I describe to the person who's coming in to say how it works, what it could be. They then have the knowledge to then ask different questions to prompt some kind of a challenging question to the person. And sometimes what happens, and I'm not saying this happens all the time, but there is a breakthrough where your partner can actually break through to you to say, okay, fine, maybe we just need to come in for one session. Let's see how it goes. And a lot of the times when you listen to your partner speaking about something that maybe you've been repeating or sounding like a broken record for years, when you do it in therapy, for some reason, it hits home differently. That person seems to kind of think, gosh, I didn't know I was like this. I didn't know that this is the impact I was having on you. This is the impact I was having on the family. So it takes a little while. And can we get there? Yes, I mean, you can. Sometimes you find people coming in together, which is great. And for example, if it's affecting a whole family unit, then there's family therapy where the whole family comes in. While the person who is the addict, who's working on themselves as well at the same time. So the family gets that support that they need, and whether there's any kind of codependent behavior attached to that. Because sometimes you find with somebody who's been drinking a long time and their partner is, no, I don't know how to say this, but not going, kind of like supporting it, you find that sometimes there's a codependent pattern of behavior there between both partners. So one person is drinking, then the other person is kind of making excuses for that person who's drinking. So yeah, sometimes you get that. So with those kind of dynamics, yeah, it's always good to just reach out to a professional and get some help. The thing is, a lot of us, we kind of think that we're doing something, and because it's not necessarily, and we do this a lot. We have our pros, we have our cons, right? Positive, negative. So, we're doing it, and we're kind of thinking, no, it's all positive. I'm still able to maintain a job. I'm still able to be on time to work. I'm still able to spend time with my family. Yes, but what is the quality of the work that you're doing? Because if you're sitting in the office on Monday and thinking Friday night, then you're not really there, you're not really present at work. You might be missing things by. And you see, the thing is, the more that you do it, you kind of get careless at work. And that's how you, if you listen to some of the stories or some of the experiences that alcoholics or drug addicts have had, it always starts with, this is something I thought was, it was normal. I was still keeping my job, still getting there on time, still spending time with the family, we're still having family holidays, we still go out for dinners, we do lunches. But, eventually it gets to a point where it becomes out of control and you can't manage it. So then that's when, the cracks start to form. You either get a bad performance review at work, you start getting late to work because, you're hungover, for example. Or if it's a sexual behavior that you're doing, for example, you are taking a break in the middle of the day at work to masturbate, so in the bathroom. So it's these are all pretty serious kind of behaviors, and that's why addiction isn't really about the drug of choice. It's the behavior and the obsessive and compulsive nature of it.
Actually, for the lunchtime one that became popular was the lunchtime quickies, in the hotel and everything in Nairobi. So it's actually because there was an expose down on that by the news media outlets, and they were like, yeah, this thing happens all the time. Lunchtimes, all hotels and bed and breakfasts are booked out just for short stay. Guys go there, have their fun times, go back to the office, but it affects what happens with you when you go back home to your partner, because then you can't be really intimate, really spend yourself out there. And further to that, I think it's important to mention that if you yourself have the issue and you recognize it, you can also, you can always reach out. And that's why, Cathy, and for me, I'm just a mediator to get you there. It's good for you to reach out if you also feel that your partner has an issue and you don't know how to approach it. I still think you should reach out for the sake of, your relationship and also for the sake of your partner. And that's the only way I think you'll be able to handle this. And it's a process. I mean, I've seen people go through it. It's been 7 years since they kicked their habits. Others are kicking their habits. As of early as of last week, I was meeting by another mate of mine who told me things were so bad as well. I was like, but it's a question of reaching out. So the question is, how do we reach out? I mean, of course, I'll post your links down there, but it just takes a phone call, or even get somebody else to make that call for you, as opposed to you making the call.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's really important for us to have that honest discussion with ourselves, as we move forward. But that's my take. What do you think? What should guys do in terms of taking the first step and actually starting the recovery for them or for other people?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we can do now is we can be a little bit more mindful about what we're doing, our behavior. If there's one thing that this pandemic, I think that I've seen across the board is, people are becoming more mindful. People are becoming more, we're reading more, we're understanding more. We're kind of like picking up from people. I've heard different things from different people across the, like during this time for the pandemic, like what they've learned. And a lot of people are learning about themselves and, what their challenges are, what they struggle with. Some people are even noticing things about their partners that they've never noticed before, so, and these are like, they're all new things. And I think, if we're just a little bit more mindful about what's going on around us and really focusing on being present in this moment, as opposed to kind of thinking, what are we going to do in the next 15 minutes or what's going to happen tomorrow? Or, being present and in the moment allows us to be more aware of what's going on around us. And if we're more aware of what's going around us, we can also then kind of look within to see how we are reacting to certain situations around us. And if we're doing that, then we can kind of see that maybe there's something that's not up to par about ourselves. I'm a firm believer that we can always be better versions of ourselves, regardless of where we are, because, we're always looking for that self-actualization, that whether it's a spiritual kind of connection or a higher consciousness, we're always looking for that, trying to connect the dots to where we are, looking at where we've come from, looking at that journey. So if we're doing that more, then we're kind of opening ourselves up more to being more present in what we're doing and in our lives in general. And part of the big decision about being in recovery is that we always ask ourselves questions. And there are two questions that we ask ourselves is, whatever we do going forward, we ask, is this for my addiction or for my recovery? Like, what are you doing? So you're meeting friends, for example, to go and you're meeting friends because you want to socialize. The social setting involves alcohol. You're trying to kick that habit. You then say, I will meet my friends because I still want to be in a social setting. Is that going to cause some craving, some temptation? So when you're making that decision to go out and hang out with your friends, knowing that the setting that you're going to be in, that decision is being made either for addiction or recovery. It's always that way, so you can always see. And then the second question you can ask yourself, that if you go and you decide that you're going to do that, are you going to disconnect or are you going to connect? So you see, addiction, recovery, disconnect, connect. Those are the kind of things that we can start looking and asking ourselves those questions as we're doing it. I'm going to go out. I will come home late. When I come home late, my partner is going to be really mad at me because I'm supposed to be spending time with the kids and my partner the next day. So me going out, am I doing it for my addiction or my recovery? Am I going to be disconnected or connected? So if you're able to answer just those two questions, you can then make a better and informed decision, I think, in my view, in my very humble view.
Your learned opinion. But so there's really no gray area. This is black or white, pretty much. And I'll have you note we've learned new words today, my fellow Kenyans. Negative cognition. Kindly take note of that word. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm not important, I'm worthless, I'm not good enough,
Yeah.
I am a failure. There can be so many.
And also a lot of stuff stems from previous memories, our childhood memories,
Mm,
what you're told by your folks or what you heard from other people,
mm,
and that builds up as well. So I think, and as much as we look at now and say, okay, so where am I? Why am I not where I want to be? And then you probably,
mm,
it has nothing to do with your current partner, probably was either from your folks or even your childhood friends, because we as Africans have a tendency to think that some of the issues are Wazungu problems. These are for Diros, how can you say you're having depression? I'm like, bruh, depression is real, whether you're black, white, Cuban, or
yeah.
Asian. It doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we need to be more accepting of that. Yeah, these things are here with us, and we need to fix them one way or the other. So
Yeah.
what I shall do, because we are quickly running out of time here. We shall definitely keep this going every month, at least one session, which is a check-in. But for
Mhm.
now, kindly go back and check on your negative cognitions and work on yourself and
Nice.
try and work on your partner. And please reach out to Cathy at any point in time, email, phone, or even face-to-face sessions that she's doing on Zoom at the moment. But thank you once again for your time, Cathy. We shall definitely pick up from this. I had the questions from the other sessions which you've actually been dealing with, and you've actually talked to some people, which is good. So I bet even this will probably have some of the sessions as well. So keep on doing what you're doing, and we shall definitely
Thank you.
keep on keeping on together.
Thank you, TJ. And please reach out. It's okay to talk. Really, it's okay to talk. Therapy is a wonderful investment in yourself. It's a great investment if, for your relationship and for all, because what it does is it cuts across all areas of your life. So you may think that you're going in for one particular thing, but you find better ways of handling all challenges across the board. So I'd encourage anybody who's thinking about it, go ahead. And those who are skeptical, give it a try. You never know what can happen.
All right. Thank you once again for your time, Cathy, and have a lovely evening.
Thank
Catch you
you.
later.
Thanks, TJ.
Bye.
Bye.